It makes me sad for Jake though. I mean, I imagine.
I know, I wanted to hear Jake too. Maybe
Yeah.
we do it next week. I don't mind switching.
Hi, Carl.
Stacy, how are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Rabbi Salkin.
Morning, how are you, Stacy?
Good. I've heard many a story about you, Jeff. So it's
Uh-oh.
yeah. So so it's fitting that, and as we're saying goodbye, that I get to meet you over Zoom.
Well, thank you. It'll be a pleasure to be muted by you.
Hopefully not too much.
I've been muted by far worse people.
Okay. Hi, Ellen and Bob.
Hi,
Hello.
is that Stacy?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes.
Good to see you. And hi, Tim. We have-
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Hi,
Good morning.
Tim.
See you.
I thought you were Dick for a minute, two handsome faces. But you're a younger version. I hope he can hear this.
We're gonna have some fun today, right?
This won't be boring. I can predict that.
And we honestly, we moved it earlier so that we could have an extended amount of time because of that, knowing.
Because you know Dick,
And
and now he likes to talk.
I don't know.
You're in
and his
charge.
friends.
I think we need the rabbi and you, Tim. But Tim, you gotta take charge here. Crack the whip.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that.
Oh,
Move this camera up.
Hi, Fred and Carol.
That's
good
better.
morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Brian.
Good morning, Stacy.
Good morning. Oh. This is wonderful that everyone's on here so early. Normally it's starts and our Zoom.
Go to full screen.
Good morning, all.
Hello, Catherine.
Hi, Katharine.
Hey,
Good morning. It's good to see you all.
Oh, dear.
Now, Catherine,
You're
if I need your
wonderful.
help, I'll just say K, and then you jump in and then, say the appropriate thing and then get back out, okay?
Yeah, Bob, I do not think that you're going to need any help there,
Okay,
sir.
all right, okay.
You met Dick on his very first day in Columbus, I believe.
Over closer.
Oh, my gosh,
Yes.
what a nice,
You were up in the, yeah,
what do you
I
remember?
think you were up in the office.
Yeah, probably so. Wow.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
dropped in for psychotherapy.
Hi.
He hasn't stopped since.
Oh, dear. Was the bishop involved in that referral?
I know nothing. So Rabbi Salkin, don't take offense, but Bob Padberg is my Columbus rabbi. I just have to say that.
That's a
Oh,
great
all right.
compliment,
Okay.
Rabbi. That's a great compliment.
Oh, it is indeed. Oh.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
all right.
Go easy, buddy. Go easy.
No, we just gave him permission.
Oh,
And Carl Smallwood, it's so good to see you. Looking, holding the end of the legal profession just right on a Sunday morning early.
Thanks for having me.
oh.
Carl's much too dressed up for the rest of us, right?
Well,
Wow.
Wow. Let me see that bow tie. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
Whoa.
That's his signature. That's Carl's signature.
Ah.
And that does not look like a clip-on to me. That looks.
The only guy with a tie
on.
Oh, there it
that's all he's got.
Well, I don't know, but he's been on since I got on.
Well, good. Well, we will go ahead and get started here, knowing that we have a full program today. And all of our special guests, all of you are special guests, but those who will be participating and sharing about Dick are here with us. So Tim Farron is going to be our moderator today, and Tim is a friend of Dick's and a friend of Trinity Episcopal Churches and a friend of the Central Ohio community. So Tim, I know your introduction is going to be a part of your opening remarks. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
Sure, thank you. Yes, this morning we say a fond farewell. I should say, as a half Italian person, this is not arrivederci, Dick. This is ciao, brother. And
Ciao, brother.
so we will be saying ciao, a fond ciao to Dick and to Catherine, and talking about the impact that Dick and Trinity and Catherine have had on all of us as individuals, as well as our broader focus in the community. Myself, I've been a journalist for many years, including for 30 years at the Columbus Dispatch, and that's how I met Dick. I was sitting outside at the Aubon Pan that was next door in between the Dispatch and Trinity, and having coffee with Mike Harden, and we were commiserating about something going on in the newsroom. And some fellow comes walking over, kind of looked like an older Andrew McCarthy, the young Brat Pack actor, and Mike said, "Oh, Tim, you should meet to Dick Burnett." And so Dick sat down and talked with us, and of course, as you all know, Dick has not stopped talking ever since. So Dick's been with me through many ups and downs, professionally, personally, and became well known as the de facto dispatch chaplain, the newsroom chaplain. So it's when I was part of one of the layoffs recently, it reminded me of when Dick gave a little service in honor of the first big wave of what was to become many waves of layoffs. And it made a huge impact because he is the newsroom chaplain, and it was an extraordinary moment for Dick. But of course, being Dick, there had to be something that was, he leavened it with his typical gregarious trademark humor. I know he'll enjoy hearing me tell this again, that he started off the homily in the service by saying, "Tim Farron is a pain in the rear end," and he went from there. So on that happy note, I will mention that we have lined up a distinguished cast of friends here. Rabbi Jeffrey Salkin, Carl Smallwood, Clarissa Epps, and my cousins-in-law, Ellen O'Shaughnessy and Bob Padberg. So without further ado from my meager part, Rabbi Salkin, tell us about your interactions and how you met Dick and just the whole spiel.
Well, thanks, everyone. It's really an honor to be here. The truth is that it was the great biblical teacher Aviva Zornberg that brought Dick and I together. And I should probably explain this. It was sometime in the early 1990s, and I was shopping at Barnes and Noble in Carl Place, Long Island, which is a place that I went to about 4 or 5 times a week, because it was possible that a new book had come out in the hours before that, and I wanted to be the first to read it. And I was perusing books in the Judaica section, which was adjacent to the Bible section. And a man came over to me and he asked me if I would do him the favor of recommending a good book on Genesis. or let me put it to you this way, he wanted a good book on the good book. And so I recommended a collection of essays on the book of Genesis written by the Scottish/Israeli Bible professor Aviva Zornberg. And then we got to talking, and he told me that he was the priest of an Episcopal church in St. James, New York, in Suffolk County, and we exchanged pleasantries, and that was it. I didn't think any more of it. Now, scene 2, years later, I'm in the bookstore in Lenox, Massachusetts. That's its name. It's the bookstore. And once again, I'm in the Judaica section, which again is adjacent to the Bible section. And once again, this man approached me. And he said, "You again. Do you remember me? I'm Dick Burnett." Quiet, Siri. And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship, to quote the final words of the classic movie Casablanca. It was truly, let me make a theological point here. It was truly the will of God that put Dick into Barnes and Noble first, and then years later in the bookstore in Lenox. And I learned that Dick and Katharine had moved to Columbus, and that they maintained a residence in Lenox, Massachusetts, which for me is second only to Jerusalem in the place that I love. I also learned that, there are couples who live together before they get married, but that Dick and Katharine had not been living together after getting married because of their professional commitments. And this really means now that with this retirement, they're finally going to get to know each other. And I think there's a real blessing in that. Now, I want you to understand that what began as somewhat random encounters in bookstores became a deep and beautiful friendship. There was a sense that always existed of shared laughter and learning. It would be overly glib and overly theological to say that it was an ongoing interfaith conversation, but in fact, it's precisely what it was. Dick Burnett has made me a better Jew and has made me a better rabbi because he has opened his soul to me and has allowed me to do the same. I am part of a little tight group of people in the Berkshires, which we call the Berkshires Chavurah, a fellowship, friendship group, a group of Jewish families. And Dick and Katharine applied to be part of this group. It was a 20-page application. And I brought it to the entrance committee, and we appointed Dick to be our chair of interreligious affairs. And so I can now say that in this group, it is unthinkable for anybody to have anything going on in their lives without the Burnetts. We cannot think of ourselves as separate from them. I will say that in my own personal life and in my family life, and Dick has helped me endure some crises in that life, there has never been a family celebration that has been devoid of the presence of the Burnetts. There has barely been a 1 week or 2 week period in which we do not speak. Now, most of those conversations, I want to be honest, are provoked by Dick, who has, in general, a question either about the translation of a particular Hebrew term or about the sex life of a 13th century Jewish sage that he had read about in either Commonweal or the Christian Century or or one of those things. Whenever he has a question about this sort of thing, he calls me, sometimes at 3 a.m, because there's something else you need to know about Dick. Dick is gregarious. Dick is a natural connector of people, but Dick doesn't sleep. You know, Dick just, he sits around all night thinking about this stuff. And in the dedication of one of my books, I refer to Dick as being my Jethro. That's a reference to the non-Israelite priest of Midian, who was the father-in-law of Moses and who nurtured him and who taught him. And so Dick is my Jethro. He's always there, ubiquitous. And Dick for me is like God. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. I don't always see him, but I think of him a lot. In that sense, he is like God. On several occasions, I have visited this great congregation, and I've spoken there, and I've shared ideas there, and I've had some very powerful spiritual experiences at Trinity. But more than that, I have witnessed firsthand how deeply Dick loves this congregation, continues to love it, and how he cared for you. And I've witnessed his amazing human capability of bringing people together and lifting them up. I've also witnessed firsthand the tremendous pride that Dick has taken in this historic congregation. How seriously and intensely he has interpreted and revered its geographic place on Capitol Square in the capital of Ohio. For you see, this priest has a bit of prophet in him as well, that he sees the physical placement of this house of God opposite the house of power in this state as a message and as a Christian witness. Now, I will say in conclusion that the relationship that Dick and Katharine and my family built over the years is a deep one, and it is a holy one. My kids, my 2 sons, love Dick, always ask about how he is doing, and they want me to bring regards to the congregation and to Dick on this special occasion. Geographically speaking, our love for each other has played itself out on various stages: Columbus, Ohio, and the Berkshires, and Atlanta, and the Yale Club. And now I must really speak of one of the greatest events that ever occurred in my relationship with Dick Burnett. And I must say that I chose not to report this event to the ADL or to go to the newspapers with it. The only moment of potential cultural insensitivity on Dick's part, and again, this is a stretch, was that we were at a large event venue at a celebration in New York City. And as they were serving dinner, and they put the fish on our plates, Dick turned to me and said, quote, "What is it with you people and your love of salmon?" Now, I chose to ignore this "you people" thing, because I must say to you, up until that moment, I thought that Dick was Jewish. We all know that Burnett was changed from Burnitsky, and that he has been posing as an Episcopalian all these years. So I ignored the "you people" part, but I said to him, and I quote, "It's sea bass." One of the tragic things about Dick Burnett's life is that this man knows the difference between Matthew and Mark, between Judaism and Christianity. But he needed a rabbi at that moment to point out the essential differences between salmon and sea bass. I end, as I should, with words of Torah. Just yesterday in the book of Leviticus, we read about how the Passover festival begins. Here's the Hebrew phrase, Bein Arbaim, literally between the evenings, how it begins at twilight. Twilight, we know, is a propitious time for a sacred moment when the sun is descending, but the darkness is not yet there. This is the twilight of Dick Burnett's pulpit presence at Trinity. But have no doubt about it, this is hardly the twilight of his career. A job is one thing, a career is something else altogether. And the original meaning of the word career is that what you carry. I'm going to say that for Dick, this career has been a sacred object that has carried him and has carried all of you. So Dick, I will say to you the traditional blessing, may you go from strength to strength, but I also pray the Trinity and the city of Columbus will go from strength to strength. You will be losing your greatest advocate, your sweetest father, but be sure and be assured that his voice and his love will reverberate throughout your halls forever. And I'm just asking any one of you, if you invite him over for dinner and you serve him sea bass, you must make it very clear that this is sea bass and not salmon. But I will say this about the word salmon. If I was to write it in Hebrew, it would be salmon, which is shalom. May you have peace, Dick. And may you and Katharine really learn to love each other in one domicile, because she is a great, great, great lady. And the two of you are among the finest people that I have ever had the blessing to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. That was wonderful, and I think everyone recognizes Dick and Katharine in those sayings. Carl, can you top that? I don't know. I dare say I could not, but
I cannot. They say never follow an act with dogs or children.
and rabbis. Apparently.
Rabbi clearly is a third category,
Right.
or at least this rabbi. And Jeff, thank you for sharing. And it made me feel sad because I didn't know Dick as long as you did. And I'm meeting Katharine, I think now, and I wish I had the relationship with Dick and Katharine that you've enjoyed these many years. But I'm honored to be included among the friends who were asked to say a few words. And Dick limited me to 2 minutes. Stacy was generous enough to expand that by a couple. So let me begin, perhaps by introduction, because I don't know that I've met most of you. I'm Carl Smallwood. I am a lawyer in Columbus, Ohio. And for the past year or so, I've been affiliated with something called the Divided Community Project, which is a part of the Ohio State University Moritz College of Law that helps communities address division along a number of lines: race, religion, ethnicity, immigration status, and other things that divide communities, cause unrest at times. But I met Dick about 5 years ago in relation to what was then a pilot project of the Divided Community Project long before I joined its staff. And it's something that's come to be known as the Greater Columbus Community Trust. And it is a group of individuals, of stakeholders, of people who care about Columbus and want it to become a beloved community. And it is designed to bring people together to convene groups, to understand deep community concerns, to work together to build trust among residents and between residents and leaders, and to identify ways to deal with some of the injustices we see in a way that will advance this community, and to prepare us to respond when something happens that breaches trust in our community. And so it's providential that I got to meet Dick Burnett 5 years ago. And you know, in the 5 years, he has been part of Community Trust, and he has been, you know, on any board or committee that you've ever had, there are about a third of the people who do all of the work, a third of the people who come and participate, and a third of the people who do very little. Dick is among the top third and a leader in that top third. And he's been a companion the last 5 years. I know he doesn't sleep, Jeff, because I get calls at different hours. And he's persistent. He is that. You know, as we have shared the last 5 years together, and pursued justice and tried to build trust in this community, we've been tossed and turned at times by some of the challenges we've been through shootings and killings of Black and brown men and women, boys and girls, through income disparities that are reflected in hunger and homelessness and hopelessness in our community in the midst now of a pandemic, and through times that challenge trust, hope, and faith. And so what can I say about Dick Burnett? He's been a constant companion, but more than that, he's been a leader, he's been a follower at times, he's a teacher and a preacher, unapologetically so. He's the head and the heart of Columbus Community Trust. And he's tethered us spiritually, ethically, morally, faithfully, and hopefully in this work of helping Columbus to become a beloved community. And as smart as he is, and he is smart, okay? I don't understand everything Dick tries to teach me. You know, but I try, and all of my teachers have been smarter than I am and have said some things I don't understand, but they've offered them with love, as Dick always does, in an effort to help guide us in the right direction. You know, as I think about what he might reflect on in our few years that we've known each other, he might look back at Columbus Community Trust with pride. But I see him shaking his head. I don't think that's the right word, Dick. And if you were saying it, you would correct yourself immediately and say, well, no, that's not quite the right word. Pride, that's too self-admiring. So, you know, I mean, lawyers are wordsmiths, but Dick takes that to another level. You know, he's too modest and humble for as erudite a man as he is. So does he feel contented? At times, I expect he does. I hope he feels satisfaction. I hope satisfaction would fit. I hope gratitude would fit for the work that God gave him to do with us in this place. For me, it's thankfulness, again, for the work, for not simply being the head and the heart, but being the hands that help advance this work. And so I'm thankful that Trinity shared this rector with Columbus Community Trust and with the community. And Jeff, Dick shared with me, I don't know that I fully understood the relevance of the placement of this church in this place. But after a former president parted a crowd forcefully and walked across a plaza to St. John's and held up a Bible and was admonished by the bishop in that community, Dick explained the purpose of having a church on the corner of the State House Square in Columbus, Ohio. And it perhaps helped to underscore one of the reasons that he was involved in this work that spoke truth to power. He's lived those values. He's lived that faith, and we've gotten a chance to walk together for a short time. I want to thank my friend, my teacher, my confidant, and my companion these last 5 years on this journey. You will be missed here, Dick. But your work isn't done. God's not quite done with you yet. And I don't know what the needs are in Western Massachusetts. I'm sure there are some, but I know you will be a blessing to that community as you have been to ours and as you've been to me. And so, Katharine, I look forward to the time when we might meet in person. I expect that may be in Western Massachusetts, where I hope you will enjoy many years. And as I said, I hope you will have a blessed time in that new place. Bittersweet for us, but wonderful for them. So my friend Dick, thank you very much. And thanks to all of you for listening to me for a few minutes and permitting me to be part of this important program.
Wonderfully said, Carl. Thank you so much. We're going from strength to strength, obviously. So we'll go to another strong presence. Clarissa Epps, please share with us your reminiscences and interactions and friendship with Dick Burnett.
Good morning, everyone. I definitely wish that I would have been able to go before the rabbi, but you can't choose the order. When you're on a panel discussion, you just go when they tell you to speak. But if you don't know, the BREAD organization is a community organization in Columbus, Ohio, and we're made up of 41 religious congregations in the Franklin County area. So our actual title is Building Responsibility, Equality, and Dignity. And Father Burnett is one of those people that you hear about, at least in my experience, you hear about them before you actually meet them. So it's more of the man, the myth, the legend. So when I started at BREAD in 2012, I had been hearing all these stories. It was almost like folklore, if you will, about this Father Burnett. And I thought, well, who is he and where is he from and where is his church? Because of the stories that I heard from him, I thought his church was somewhere far, far away in a distant land. But I didn't know it was just a few blocks basically from the BREAD office at Trinity Episcopal Church at 3rd and Fulton. So, over time, I kept hearing all these stories about Father Burnett, and then I finally met him. And when I met him, I learned very quickly that he's one of those people where you don't meet them once and you get a good understanding of who they are. So I've learned over time, over the last 9 years, that he can be described in a variety of ways. The first way that comes to mind for me is that I feel like he's an attorney of sorts, if you will. Here's what I mean. I feel like every time I've spoken with Father Burnett or heard him speaking, he knows the facts about the situation. He will argue the case. He'll bring in key witnesses and he'll connect you to other people who can tell you about this. And it feels like he brings in all these stories anecdotally and things he read in the Dispatch to prove his point. And I think, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. I'm going to have to go and fact check later, but I'm like, I know that it has to be correct. But as Rabbi Salkin said, he's definitely a connector of people. I know that as we've been working on various community problems within the BREAD organization, such as pushing for a local ID program or on affordable housing or on keeping kids in school, every time we brought clergy together to brainstorm, he would always know, well, here's who you should contact at OSU, or here's who you should contact at this organization. And he knew of people who had experienced those problems. If we wanted to also reach out to people who had personal testimonies. But I've also learned that he's a teacher as well as a student. because every time I'm around him, he's always teaching me something, but he's always asking me lots of questions as well so that he can learn from my perspective. And so I also, the last thing I'll say is that he is a fearless leader. And I mean that in every sense of the word, but I want to save some of my juicy stories. I know that Tim is going to moderate a little bit later. And I also want to be brief. You know, you never want to be that person where they're like, we'll never invite them back. I want to be invited back at some point if there's something else that you want me to talk about. So I'll close with that and wish my best to Father Burnett and Katharine, who I've heard many stories about when Father Burnett seemed to just pop up at the bread office on a walk down the street and figured he would check in on us. So I wish my best to both of you in the next phase, but I will pause here, Tim, and yield the floor back to you.
Thank you. And we'll pop right over, last but not least of our initial chats, to Alan and Bob. You're up, folks.
Thank you, Tim. Reverend Richard Burnett, priest, rabbi of our beloved city, friend for 24 years. I remember your installation like it was yesterday. You are truly gifted with the ministry of encouragement, the ministry of humor at the very heart of the city. I've been consoled by your understanding of the challenge of our Downtowners campus ministry, serving students of all faith traditions, all socioeconomic backgrounds. A beautiful student of the Jewish faith, when she enrolled in the nursing school of Mount Carmel College of Nursing, joined our campus ministry. At that time, and on many other occasions, we reached out to our campus ministry and gathered us with you at a coffee shop in the German village to be with Rabbi Jeffrey Salkin, virtually, of course, by Skype then. Rabbi Salkin with you so inspired that nursing student that she joined a local synagogue to Fereth, Israel with her grandparents. And Yulia's been with us to this day, having graduated from the Mount Carmel College of Nursing and now a board member of our ministry. At your Martin Luther King gathering a few years ago, where you hosted a policewoman, now ordained Episcopal priest, you led us in the reflection of justice and our call to becoming a beloved community. In caring for the struggling homeless, the street poor, the working poor, whom you host in your church and on the grounds of your church, we love Sister. She's referred to often on your church grounds as the keeper of the church. And anybody who could cause you harm, Sister is on alert for you. You have called us to pray for our suffering city, carrying the cross around the state capitol on Good Friday. Students, don't forget that. Your church has also hosted us for our holy hike, listening to the heartbeat of God in our city. As our campus ministry has shared with you, your church serving meals to the homeless. You're truly a companion for our ministry. Notice I don't say you're leaving because I haven't dealt with your transition from us yet. I'm in denial. God love you, brother. God be with you.
Sweet. Bob, were you going to say anything in addition?
Yes, please. It's a privilege to follow Ellen. It's part of my career. Dick, Get it? Ministry of encouragement. Minister of humor. Well, if you remember, we had several Dominican nuns, and you and Ellen and I in the place to be many years ago, helping you discern a job in midst of your career. We're glad they didn't choose you to be bishop because we got to keep you. You're also a minister of study, a la Dominic, service, community, a priest of prayer. I know. I've been at Trinity since 1981. Katharine reminded me I was there the first day you arrived. I've seen many a rector come and go. I'd proudly, happily say you're my favorite. That didn't take too long to figure that out. Some say you're minister of buying a new car. I think you honored me with the term rabbi and calling me aside to help you discern, seriously, what the people might think if you got a red car like mine. Of course, I'm simply a quiet psychotherapist with an office at Trinity.
Oh,
But I think you kept my name on the roster there, even though I was not there that often. Haven't been there in a year. Would a red be okay, or maybe a clerical charcoal gray Jetta? And I said a few things, and then when Katharine heard this story, she said, "Dick, it's a Jetta." Get it? If you're getting a Jetta as a prestigious priest or a servant priest, who cares? Give the people credit. Now, another time, this might be a good summary. Katharine could help me here, but I'll just say, I believe it was a niece or a nephew in the Northwest was going to get married. And he or she and their spouse wanted you to do the officiating. And they made it clear to you that, please, Uncle Dick, do not mention God. And Katharine got wind of this, or actually she was there, and immediately said, as you would all expect, knowing Dick, Dick only does God.
that's right.
I rest my case.
Beautiful.
Very well done, as usual. Thanks, Bob. I think at this point, not that we want to have as many endings as the Lord of the Rings, but we're going to. Dick Burnett himself wants to say a few words, don't you, Dick? And hit the off the mute button so that you can chat us up and give us more pearls of wisdom as well as pearls of humor. I'm sure that doesn't put any pressure on you at all. Go ahead, Dick.
Well, as I said once, I'll say it again. Sometimes Tim Farron is just a pain in the ass. That's what I actually said, Tim.
I know these things.
Oh, hey. So I'm going to take my cue contra Ms. Epps. You know, I really like it, Clarissa.
Carl,
that
he's
you-
going into Latin now.
Right.
Look at-
I really wanted to share one more story, Tim, but I wasn't sure. But it sounds like
Yeah.
Brother Burnett, hurry up so I can share my story.
Okay. So Clarissa, I really appreciate the fact that you thought that I might have spent more than just one term at law school class, which I did do, and that's a story unto itself when I was in divinity school. But you know, that's over a Sam Adams another day. But I would like to just say the facts are all right, all correct. The witnesses have spoken. The defense rests. I love you all.
That's it?
Get out. That's it? That's an imposter. That cannot possibly be Dick Burnett. Clarissa, you wanted to say something more, I know. So
Thank you, Tim. Yes, there was a story that I really wanted to share. Thanks. And I'm watching the clock because, again, I want to be brief. So I remember in 2019, Bread was embarking on another iteration of our affordable housing efforts. And this time we knew that we had to up the ante if we really wanted to get the Columbus City Council and the Franklin County Commissioners to respond. Because over 50,000 families in the county were spending more than half their income on housing. And those 50,000 families were all low income families. And so I remember we were sharing these details at some clergy caucus gatherings where we would have a dozen or more clergy involved in Bread, hearing about the updates and asking them to get involved because we had staged a 3-month series of having one of our members, at least one, speak at each and every city council and county commission meeting. And so we were getting close to the end of this series, and the commissioners and the city council had not responded favorably in terms of implementing the solutions that we were asking for and committing to attend our biggest event of the year where they commit to implement those solutions. And so I'm sitting with the Bread staff and we're thinking, well, who should we get to speak next? And we're thinking, okay, we probably should ask one of the clergy, but it needs to be someone who's going to be fiery and won't back down. They need to be fearless. And mind you, around the next day, we get to this gathering of clergy, and Father Burnett just flies off the handle in the greatest sense of the term, as only Jesus would, and flipping over the tables and all those things. And so Father Burnett is like, we have to say something. These people need housing. There's people living out in front of my church that we serve every day. So we left the meeting, we as the staff, and we said, that's him. That's who we're going to ask to speak. And so my boss gave me Father Burnett's cell phone number. And I remember calling him and I said, well, Father Burnett, you seem so passionate. We have this upcoming county commission meeting. We'd like to ask you to speak. And he said, oh, well, I guess I could do that. What should I say? And I said, everything you said today, but we'll write it in the script because you only get 3 minutes. You have to be brief. You have to make the point. And he said, okay. So we wrote the script. He looked at it. He reviewed it. And then we got there. And as I remember it, Father Burnett, it seemed like you started to get nervous. And I said, wait, no, bring the same passion that you had last week. So he gets there and he's very passionate. It's all televised if you want to go back and look at it. And we had practiced that he would pause and wait for a response for the commissioners. And I remember in the pause, they said, well, Father, are you done? He said, no, I'm waiting for your response. Will you attend our event? And it was so quiet in that room that, as my mom from the southern part of Virginia would say, you could hear an ant pee on the ground. It was so quiet as we waited for the response. We didn't get a response. We go out into the hallway and the commissioners follow us and they all gather around Father Burnett and they're like, why did you do this to us in public? We said that we weren't coming. And he was like, no, you never did say anything. That's why we're here. And he strategically, remember I said he's an attorney of sorts, he strategically responded to each of them in the most fabulous way that nobody could ever say anything about him. And he asked them, join us, be our partners at the Nehemiah Action. And at that time, he could still shake people's hands. He extended his hand and said, join me at the Nehemiah Action and take some action to be able to do something about this problem. And the commissioner still said no, but Father Burnett held his ground. And then afterward, he was even more fired up with the clergy in the caucus and got more clergy involved in that effort. And I just remember in that moment how fun it was, because then he started to call me almost every week. Like, well, when are we going back? And what's the next strategy? And who should I bring with me? And I thought, well, everybody. But it was so fun. But that's just the story that stands out in my mind, because the great news is that later that year, the commissioners did do what we had asked them to do. And hundreds of families are now moving into affordable housing because of Father Burnett's efforts in that work.
That's, yeah, I agree. Fred and Carol are applauding from Princeton, Central New Jersey, for heaven's sakes, for housing in Central Ohio. Good, this is important. Mary Ellen O'Shaughnessy, who's an elected office holder and has meant a lot to issues of humanity and justice, is in the wings with her husband Tim Farron. But like Bob Padberg, Tim's learning how to follow his wife around too. So she's been a hero to many of us. And if it's a unapologetic separation, abusive church and state separation, I'm going to say always vote for O'Shaughnessy. That's what I'm going to say. But
It's the longest name on the ballot. Thank you.
But those commissioners, Winston Churchill said of the Americans that we always end up doing the right thing after all the other options have been tried. So sort of the commissioners sort of proved that in that season. But we're moving in the right direction in Columbus. And I would say one thing, Tim, that if I were, and Katharine knows this, that I'm pretty sentimental, and I'm a totalizer. I want everybody at the table all the time. Stacy knows that too, and any warden that I worked with, like Bill Maines or Brad Sturm or Pat Regola, all the different Rhoda Allen, all the different wardens on this call know that. But if I were, I would go to the gates of glory and bring down the Right Reverend Frederick Hauk Borsch, the longtime Bishop of Los Angeles, and a hero of mine and my friend who went to glory a few years ago. And I would say, Bishop, do you remember when I brought you upstairs when you did a weekend here with us at Trinity and did a marvelous teaching and then preached an inimitable Easter season sermon? It wasn't Easter Day. It was probably this Sunday, actually, in the midst of the Easter season. But on Friday night, I took him upstairs and we were changing the third floor into what I like to call an urban spirit center. I think Rhoda's the only person who's actually played along with me and called it that. But the urban spirit center, where we have our vestry meetings when we meet in person. I know you'll look forward to regathering sometime to do that. And most of the books, if not all the books, were sent over directly by Katharine when we left Bexley and went downtown and filled the 2 rooms with books. And I still have a few more books I'd be glad to send upstairs too. But that Bishop Borsch, listening to me sort of yammering on about this and that in the city and Capitol Square and prayer and all the things you were talking about, he interrupted me mid-sentence. And this guy was an old pro. He'd been chaplain at Princeton University, been 3 times a seminary dean, 3 different seminaries in the Episcopal Church, doctorate from New Testament from Birmingham, England, and an American who studied over there. Jake, he sort of went the opposite direction as you. I'm glad to see you on the call today. But Bishop Borsch interrupts me. He says, "Dick, what this place needs is people." And and I think he was absolutely right. And you have all proved that today, because every one of you is people. And God loved the world so much that God became a people. And God calls us to be God's people so that we can be the body of Christ in the world, and so that we can live into the covenant promises that the rabbi who rightly began this all, not only for knowing us as long as actually longer if you count the Carl Place bookstore, longer than Bob Padberg, but really, more importantly, being a part of the Israel of God, who is the people, the first people. And we are the extension of that people, a people of promise, a people of love, a people of mercy and justice, and a people of hope. I love you all. You're my kind of people. Thanks.
Well, getting a rousing round of applause
And Stacy, look at that. It's 20 minutes after 9. Can you believe it?
No one's more surprised than me.
I think we're all kind of tied in our surprise. Yes. Dick knows how to talk. When I'm standing at the gates and St. Peter is getting ready to address me, Dick will be standing there talking, and I'll have to put the mute button on for probably St. Peter, because Dick will be in the middle of a conversation. Stacy, should we open the floor up to anyone else on the call who wants to say their piece about our good friend, Dick Burnett?
I have to say a word about the Bitzer bloodline, which Richard and I share. Many of you don't know who we are and wondered who these strange people from that Dick keeps talking about, Princeton, New Jersey, are. I'm Dick's second cousin, and Carol, my dear wife, is also Dick's and Catherine's second cousin. We first met Dick over 50 years ago when my father arranged a visit to his beloved Uncle Charles Bitzer, who happened to be Dick's grandfather, and also to his beloved cousin Mary Elizabeth, who happened to be Dick's mother. And we met in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, on the river, and that wonderful apartment that your grandparents had. And in the corner was this frighteningly tall, gawky individual, and he's like, "Who is this person?" Well, it turned out to be our cousin Richard Burnett. Didn't see him again for, I don't know, 40 years, 30 years. And another act of God, Tim, or Rabbi, or whoever mentioned that, an act of God. Dick sat down next to a colleague of mine at a retirement dinner in Manhattan and happened to say, "The Eagleton Institute of Politics at Rutgers University? You don't happen to know my cousin Fred Butler, do you?" And of course he did. And of course they exchanged phone numbers. And the next thing you know, I'm getting a call from Richard Burnett.
And it wasn't 3 a.m.
And it wasn't 3 a.m, but I would have welcomed it at 3 a.m. because we reconnected. And then I came to Columbus for a conference and got snowed out. And Katharine rescued me from this hotel that I was marooned in because of this snowstorm. And Dick and Katharine and I spent the weekend together. And we knew that we had to be together more often than decades apart. And so we on the East Coast are not as unhappy about Richard's retirement from Columbus, because he's going to be closer to us physically. And we've planned a number of get-togethers in Massachusetts and New Jersey and etc. So we can see the love and hear the love that you all have for him, and we know that, and it's part of the bloodline, Dick. You know that, and so we're so happy for you, and can't wait till you move to the East Coast.
And I just want to add that my experience with Dick has been similar to yours, and that he likes very much to talk. And he was visiting us last summer, and we asked him if he would say a prayer, and he
Give the blessing over the food, right?
And he said like one sentence, and I looked at him and I said, "Dick, is that all you've got?"
And he'll never let her forget that.
So, Tim, may I just say thank
Catherine,
you
crazy kids
to
are
all
going
of
to
you.
be together now. So please, yes, we need to hear from Catherine.
Great, thank you. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for being on. But I witnessed, and you witnessed, when Tim first turned this over to Dick, you all, the memories that you have given us, and especially Dick, you left him almost speechless. He gave us 30 seconds of a thank you. And it was so heartfelt that you literally took the words out of his mouth. And I've rarely have seen my husband speechless, as you can imagine. Clarissa, you added another story. And from that, we heard the true Dick Burnett. The other one was true Dick Burnett too, but you heard Dick on his deep, deep love for each and every one of you, and for Columbus, and how Trinity and the community need each other. And for this, I will never, ever be able to thank you enough. We are going to live together. It will be under one roof. We need your blessing. I promise you, we will make it. We will make it work. And it's going to be really, really fun. However, we couldn't be where we are today without each and every one of you being part of our lives together. And I hear from Dick all the time how special you all are. And I can't possibly thank you all enough. So with that, I guess I should turn it back to you, Tim, and thank you. Thank you all.
Stacy, are we running out of time here? Should I toss this to someone for a final blessing, perhaps?
Yeah, just real quick before we do that, this is the first in a 3-part series that we're having, and thank you so much for everyone being here and for the perspectives and stories. This is honestly more than we even envisioned for this in our series of saying goodbye. So next week we'll invite parishioners from Trinity as well as staff members to share stories in similar format, and it's not a roast but a toast in sharing about Dick. And then the final Sunday on May 16th, we will hear from Dick and Katharine, and they'll have the opportunity to reflect and share on their 24-year journey with Trinity and how they changed throughout that time. So thank you for being here today.
Bob, as Dick regards you as his rabbi, would you like to offer just a final thought or blessing here as we wrap this up?
Oh my God.
No pressure.
You could ask the O'Shaughnessy chick to help too, you know.
Yeah, well, let's make it real. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Loving God among us, risen Lord Jesus, how else are you to be present except among us, as Dick lovingly said, your people. Not just Jewish, not just Christian, all people. Young and old, rich and poor, of every color and race and creed. We are yours. You have given your life for us in oh so many ways. You feed us in the springtime through your squirrels and dogs and birds and leaves and clouds and rain and sun and all seasons. We thank you for each other. We thank you especially for the man among us who in so many ways brings out the best in each of us.
And may the Lord bless our coming and our going, now and forever. Amen.
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 Thank you all for participating in this. Even if you were just listening, it's been a wonderful tribute to Dick and to Katharine and to Trinity, and it continues.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Happy Sunday.
Can I just say, Tim Farron, you might want to be a candidate for the 25th rector, because you ended this exactly on time, which would be an absolute shock to the people of Trinity Church if the next rector were able to do that on a regular basis. Amazing time management, Tim. And welcome to Jake Cunliffe from Yale Divinity School. I love Yale Divinity School, and I'm very grateful that Jake loves it too. So
We won't hold that against him.
Yeah, I know.
Please don't.
Oh,
Thank you all.
Well,
Thanks, Tim.
bye.
Thank
Bye, Catherine. Thank you.
thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Bob and Ellen. Thank you, Carl, Clarissa.
Thank
and
you
Tim.
all.
Bye.